everybody, this is Tom Nash. A little bit of an impromptu video today, having my morning coffee. Excuse the bad sound, but here's the thing. You see, I'm going to explain to you in this video why I think we're not going to see any hostages being released in any sort of an exchange deal between the Israelis and Hamas, at least for the next 30 days. Now, the source of this assumption, although it may be proven completely wrong, like anything about the future, any prediction has a chance of being wrong, especially in the Middle East. But why I think Hamas is essentially torpedoing any chance of an actual hostage release deal by making impossible demands is because essentially Hamas has been backed into a corner, and now they're trying to instigate some sort of a ring of fire scenario around the Israelis. If I may take a second of your time, I want to remind you that the original plan by Iran using Hamas was to invoke some sort of an internal combustion inside the Israeli territory, essentially getting Hamas to attack from Gaza, getting the PLO and their people to essentially attack from the West Bank, and have some sort of an uprising from the Israeli citizens, Arab Israeli citizens, against the Jews, and potentially even add in Hezbollah from the north, etc., etc. Create this ring of fire, multitude of fronts for Israel to fight in, which would essentially create a potential of a strategic loss for the Israelis. Now, that plan has failed because Hamas has failed to trigger that ring of fire. The Arab citizens of Israel did not start anything. No real activity in the West Bank because it's being suppressed preemptively by the Israeli military. So there's nothing really happening that's going to prevent the Israelis to keep leaning on Hamas, essentially getting into, inside the last stronghold of Hamas, which is the Rafah region. Essentially, if you imagine Gaza as one strip of land, the bottom half, the southern half, which borders with Egypt, this is where Hamas is now barricaded. It has 4 brigades there. They're ready to be, its last stronghold. And, at the end of the day, there's just too much brute force, machinery, technology. Hamas doesn't really stand a chance. Their only chance is, number one, to stall right now and to get a second win, so to speak, to create this ring of fire or a quasi-ring of fire by creating some sort of a crisis, some sort of an explosion, some sort of a escalation event, some sort of a triggering event during one of the most sensitive times in the Muslim world, which is the month of Ramadan. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, the month of Ramadan is the holiest month for the Muslim community. Essentially, they fast during the day, they eat during the night, they pray. It's a very, sacred time for them, etc., etc. So the idea would be, it's also known to be very violent and very triggering event for a lot of Muslim extremists. So the idea for Hamas is to get some sort of a triggering event, not in Gaza, actually inside Israel, potentially in East Jerusalem, something that happens potentially maybe even that has to do with, the sacred places, such as, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is always a trigger, maybe instigate some sort of a violent protest that basically ignites the region. Will they be successful or not? I don't know, but they're definitely trying because at this point, that is their last chance. I think what they're trying to do here, because they've been essentially abandoned by Iran, is to create some sort of a ring of fire on Israel that's going to incentivize Iran to actually let Hezbollah take an active part beyond just shooting rockets at the north part of the Israelis. And for the Iranians, it's not a good deal right now because it's a losing deal. But if there's going to be enough chaos, enough mess, so that they can actually pull it off, maybe the Iranians will let Hezbollah loose. And that's the hope of Hamas, that that's going to bail out Hamas, etc., etc. That's the plan. So that's why I don't think we're going to see a hostage deal within the month of Ramadan, because there's going to be essentially a petri dish for Hezbollah to try and create some sort of a mess. Now, also, don't forget that Hezbollah needs this time because they're fighting the Israelis' initiative to create an alternative rule in Gaza, a civilian rule by, essentially cantonizing Gaza into 5 different families that's going to manage Gaza from a civilian standpoint under the security responsibility of the Israelis. essentially the cantonization plan I've been talking about since November, that has started through the distribution of aid through these families in certain parts. And Hamas has to show them something, because at this point it's kind of a clout battle, right? Hamas wants to show that they're still relevant, that they still can hurt Israel, because at the end of the day, don't get mixed up. On the Palestinian street, political points don't come from welfare, they don't come from having a good life, they come from hurting Israelis. So whoever can show that they can hurt the Israelis more, they can bend the Israelis more, they're going to have more clout. So in order for Hamas to fight against this new initiative and against these new rulers, they're going to have to show that they can bend the Israelis, or they can cause some mayhem. So you might see that as well. So Hamas is fighting an internal political battle for survival. At the same time, they're fighting a military battle for survival against the Israelis, and then both, they're losing. So their only chance is to create some sort of a Hail Mary explosion that's going to drag the entire region into a massive warfare. So my 2 cents, I hope that obviously does not materialize. No more need for extra violence that's not needed, but that's the Middle East. If there's anything new, I'll obviously keep you posted. Sorry for the bad audio today, just getting ready for my morning routine. Also want to thank all the Patreons. We have over 100 people that join our Patreon, even though there's no benefits to it, almost. It's just to support the channel. These videos are mostly not monetized. Thank you so much, every single one of you. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.